Let's be honest. Handling toxic people isn't just about learning a few tricks or repeating clever phrases. It's about stepping into the kind of self-respect that makes other people uncomfortable, especially the ones who counted on your silence. High-value women don't move through the world trying to prove their worth. They already know it. And that's what makes them dangerous to people who thrive on manipulation. They've learned, sometimes the hard way, that boundaries are not a betrayal of kindness. They are the deepest form of it. Boundaries say, I love you and I love me too. And when someone forces you to choose, a high-value woman chooses herself, not out of selfishness, but out of sacred responsibility. When they encounter toxic behavior, gaslighting, control, emotional chaos, they don't internalize it as truth. They don't make it about their value. Instead, they treat it like information, like data. This behavior says more about the other person than it ever could about them. And with that clarity, they respond instead of react. They step back instead of lashing out. They protect their peace instead of engaging in emotional tug of war. There's a profound difference between building boundaries and building barriers, and high-value women know it intimately. Boundaries are rooted in love and clarity. Barriers are born from fear and pain. A woman who knows her worth doesn't need to harden her heart or shut the world out. She simply learns how to honor herself without apology. Boundaries are not walls meant to push people away. They are the courageous, compassionate structures that allow safe connection. They are the lines that say, this is who I am. This is what I will and will not allow. This is what I need to stay whole. High-value women understand that they can be open-hearted and kind and still say no, still walk away, still choose themselves when necessary. These women don't wait for others to respect them by chance. They teach people how to treat them by what they tolerate, by the conversations they're willing to have, and by how they show up for themselves. Their boundaries are not aggressive, but they are firm. They're not cruel, but they are non-negotiable. They're not about control. They're about safety, dignity, and emotional responsibility. She doesn't scream to be heard. She doesn't over-explain, justify, or beg for decency. She says, this doesn't work for me. This is my limit. I won't participate in that. And she lets her actions back those words. What sets her apart is that she doesn't set boundaries to punish. She sets them to protect her peace, her values, her energy. She's not trying to exile others. She's trying to include herself in the equation of care, because she knows that when you constantly bend, contort, and shrink to avoid conflict, the cost is always your own inner peace. She doesn't believe in burning bridges just to feel powerful, but she won't hesitate to build distance where there is danger, disrespect, or chaos. And she won't wait for the storm to pass to declare that she deserves calm. In a world that often teaches women to be pleasing, palatable, and passive, a high-value woman breaks the mold. She makes people uncomfortable not because she's mean, but because she's honest. She chooses self-respect over approval, and she chooses boundaries not because she's guarded, but because she's grown. Her boundaries are not walls, they are doors with locks, and only those who knock with respect are allowed in. High-value women have a remarkable ability to pause, step back, and see people's behavior for what it really is, information. They don't let someone else's dysfunction become their identity. They don't absorb cruelty as truth. They observe, they assess, and then they act from a place of clarity, not confusion. Toxic people often project their pain, shame, or unhealed trauma onto others. It can come in the form of manipulation, passive aggression, gaslighting, guilt tripping, or control. To the unguarded heart, this behavior can feel personal, like a reflection of your worth. But high-value women have learned that someone's inability to love, respect, or honor them is not a verdict on who they are. It's data. Just like a red flag is data, just like a pattern is data. And this is what sets them apart. They don't make excuses for it. They don't say, maybe I misunderstood, or maybe if I were a little easier to deal with, they wouldn't treat me this way. No. They've graduated from self-blame. They no longer translate mistreatment into a lack of value. Instead, they read it like a report. This person lacks accountability. This person doesn't respect boundaries. This person deflects when they're called out. This is not safe. High-value women understand that emotional intelligence doesn't mean tolerating abuse. It means being discerning. It means recognizing behavior for what it is without twisting it into something else just because they want to see the good. Because wanting to see the good in people is noble, but ignoring who they actually are is self-betrayal. They pay attention to patterns, not potential. One cruel comment, they note it. A subtle undermining, they remember. A series of dismissals, they connect the dots. And once they have enough data, they move, not out of vengeance, but out of wisdom. Seeing toxic behavior as data also allows them to respond, not react. Instead of exploding, shutting down, or spiraling in self-doubt, they ground themselves. They say, this behavior says something about them, not about me. And from that grounded place, they can choose how to proceed with strength, integrity, and emotional maturity. This shift from taking it personally to treating it as information is one of the greatest acts of self-protection. Because when you stop letting other people's behavior define your worth, you stop bleeding for wounds that aren't yours. You stop walking on eggshells. You stop begging for kindness from people committed to misunderstanding you. High-value women gather evidence, and once the evidence is clear, they don't need to argue, explain, or beg for change. They make empowered decisions based on what they see, not what they hope for. Because they know that the truth will always show itself in the behavior. And they've learned to believe it the first time. Few women have stopped handing out permission slips for their worth. They do not let their value be determined by who likes them, praises them, chooses them, or validates them. Because they've learned, often through pain, that when you let others define your worth, you will always be at the mercy of their approval. They've untangled their identity from external noise. Compliments, titles, relationship status, social media likes, career achievements, or who decides to stay. While those things may add flavor to life, they are not the foundation. A high-value woman has learned to root her worth in something much deeper, something unshakable. Herself. She's no longer swayed by people who only love her when she's easy to love. She's not looking to be picked. She's not sitting on the shelf of someone's indecision waiting to be deemed enough because she already knows she is enough. She doesn't need someone else's affirmation to confirm it. She's done negotiating her value in rooms that require her to shrink, bend, or perform. This doesn't mean she's arrogant or detached, quite the opposite. She can receive feedback, love, and connection without losing herself in it, because when your worth is self-sourced, love becomes a gift, not a transaction. You're not loving for validation, you're loving from abundance. You're not afraid to say no, because rejection no longer feels like a collapse of identity. You're not desperate to be seen because you already see yourself. That high-value woman understands that people will come and go. Some will misunderstand her, some will judge her, some will adore her, but none of that changes the mirror she holds up for herself each day. Her sense of worth doesn't ride the emotional roller coaster of someone else's opinion. She does not beg to belong. She does not chase people to prove she is lovable. She stopped looking for peace in the places that keep her anxious. Stop trying to earn what should be freely given. Stop measuring her beauty, her brilliance, or her goodness by how convenient she is for someone else's comfort. She is whole regardless of who sees it. Her worth is her responsibility, and that truth sets her free. When a woman stops outsourcing her self-worth, she becomes untouchable, not because she's guarded, but because she is rooted in truth, in grace, in self-respect, and in the deep knowing that nothing outside her can give or take away what she already is. Unshakable. High-value women have made peace with this truth. Short-term discomfort is far better than long-term self-betrayal. They know that avoiding difficult conversations, biting their tongue to keep the peace, or saying yes when their heart is screaming no may feel easier in the moment. But it always comes at a cost. And that cost is resentment. These women have lived in the silent tension of people-pleasing. They've swallowed their opinions, suppressed their needs, and performed emotional labor for people who rarely noticed, or worse, expected it. And somewhere along the way, they realized that every time they avoided discomfort, they were quietly abandoning themselves. And so they chose a different path. They chose to sit in the fire of discomfort because it burns clean. It may feel awkward, risky, even scary, but it's honest, saying, I'm not okay with that, or that hurt me, or I need something different, requires vulnerability. It requires being willing to disappoint others rather than constantly disappointing yourself. A high-value woman knows that she can't live a full, authentic life while constantly walking on eggshells. She doesn't see conflict as a threat to connection, but as a doorway to it. She'd rather risk temporary awkwardness than permanent resentment. Because she understands that resentment is a slow poison. It doesn't just affect relationships, it erodes your joy, your energy, your self-respect. She's not looking to be liked all the time. She's looking to be real, to be clear, to be free. Choosing discomfort means she tells the truth even when her voice shakes. It means she stops pretending to be okay with things that aren't okay. It means she no longer nods along to keep others comfortable while she's crumbling inside. It means she ends the conversation when it crosses a line, leaves the table when she's no longer valued, and speaks up when silence would cost her too much. Discomfort isn't her enemy anymore, it's her teacher. It teaches her where her limits are, where her values lie, where her voice matters. Does it make her unpopular with some? Maybe. But she's not living her life for approval, she's living it for alignment. And alignment requires integrity, even when it's inconvenient. Because at the end of the day, she'd rather face 5 minutes of discomfort than 5 years of resentment. She knows her soul is worth more than someone else's temporary comfort. And she refuses to pay for other people's peace with pieces of herself. A high-value woman may have once been the fixer, the nurturer, the emotional caretaker, the one who saw the potential in someone so clearly that she ignored the patterns. She believed that if she just loved hard enough, supported long enough, stayed patient enough, they would change, that her loyalty could be the catalyst for their transformation. But eventually she realized healing is an inside job. She cannot carry someone else's growth on her back. She cannot love someone into wholeness. She cannot do the emotional labor for two. And most importantly, she cannot save someone who is comfortable being broken, especially when their brokenness gives them permission to manipulate, deflect, or avoid facing themselves. High-value women are deeply compassionate, but compassion without boundaries becomes enabling, and she has learned the difference. She's stopped throwing lifelines to people who are swimming away from shore. She stopped lighting herself on fire to keep others warm. She no longer believes that her love is the exception to someone's dysfunction. She can hold space for someone's pain without making it her purpose to fix it. When she sees toxic or self-sabotaging behavior, she no longer rushes in to solve it. She pauses, she observes, she asks, is this person truly invested in change or just comfortable in chaos? And if the answer is the latter, she lets them walk their own path. Not out of judgment, but out of wisdom. Because she knows now fixing people is not love, it's control dressed up as care. Codependency wrapped in good intentions. And she's done betraying herself to hold together what someone else keeps breaking. She loves deeply, but not blindly. She supports, but she doesn't rescue. She's generous, but not at the expense of her sanity. Her energy is sacred, her peace is precious, and she knows it's not her job to heal those who refuse to even admit they're wounded. She no longer invests in potential, she invests in truth. And the truth is this: some people are only interested in being around those who tolerate their damage, not challenge it. And a high-value woman is not here to tolerate dysfunction. She's here to thrive in alignment. So she lets go, not because she doesn't care, but because she finally does. Not just her time or her schedule, but her presence, her attention, her emotional availability, her thoughts, her heart. These things are precious. And she no longer hands them out to anyone who simply wants them. Access to her is earned, not through perfection, but through consistency, respect, and emotional safety. There was a time, perhaps, when she gave too freely, when she allowed people to overstay in her life because she didn't want to seem rude, harsh, or unkind, when she believed it was her job to uplift everyone, to answer every call, to be the shoulder for everyone else until she had nothing left for herself. But not anymore. She's learned the cost of being emotionally overdrawn. She knows what it feels like to wake up tired, not just from lack of sleep, but from the emotional weight of holding everyone else's burdens. She knows the toll of constantly explaining herself to people committed to misunderstanding her, of trying to prove her worth in relationships that feed off her effort but never return it. So now she guards her energy like a temple. She's mindful of who she lets into her inner circle. She pays attention to how she feels after interactions. Does this person energize me or drain me? Do they honor my space or invade it? Do they leave me grounded or questioning my sanity? She listens to her nervous system more than their excuses, and she takes even small red flags seriously because she knows small leaks sink big ships. Protecting her energy means not answering every text right away. It means declining invitations that don't align. It means stepping away from drama without needing to explain. It means taking rest days without guilt. And most importantly, it means no longer giving herself away in pieces just to be accepted. She's not cold, she's clear. She's not unavailable, she's discerning. She's not selfish, she's self-aware, right? Because she understands this truth deeply. Anything that costs her peace is too expensive. High-value women don't waste their light trying to brighten rooms where people keep pulling the curtains shut. They don't overextend themselves trying to change people who refuse to grow. They don't exhaust their emotional reserves trying to explain their boundaries to people who benefit from their absence. Their energy is an investment, and they expect a return of respect, trust, and reciprocity. She knows that protecting her energy isn't about controlling the outside world. It's about mastering her inner one, about choosing what she allows in and what she releases with grace, about honoring herself so fiercely that the wrong people no longer feel at home in her life. Because when her energy is protected, her power is intact. And when her power is intact, she is unstoppable. She is not loud for attention, nor silent for approval. She is grounded, rooted. She has walked through fires of betrayal, of burnout, of lessons learned the hard way, and emerged not bitter, but better, wiser, clearer, and above all, deeply connected to herself. She leads with boundaries, not barriers, because she knows real connection requires clarity, not constant sacrifice. She sees toxic behavior as data, not definition, because she refuses to carry shame that doesn't belong to her. She no longer outsources her self-worth because she's done auditioning for spaces that were never meant to hold her. She chooses discomfort over resentment because she values her inner peace more than pleasing people who would never notice her pain. She doesn't try to fix people who benefit from being broken because she finally understands that love isn't about saving someone, it's about respecting yourself enough to let go. And she protects her energy like a sacred resource because her light is not for the careless, the chaotic, or the entitled. It is for the aligned, the safe, the worthy. A high-value woman is not a myth. She is real. She is rising. She is reclaiming every part of herself that the world told her to give away. And perhaps the most beautiful part, she's not asking for permission anymore.